Good evening, everybody. This is Grizzly once again from Lexington, Kentucky. From coast to coast, all around the world. I've been on the hunt for psychics and mediums for a while. Excuse me for this evening, I'm losing my voice for some reason. I don't know why, but excuse me for that. But I have a very special guest backstage. And I'm always looking for new guests for the show. I'm thinking about doing a book. But let's see if she is ready. Here we go. Let's bring her on. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine. Introduce yourself.
My name's Michele Seaman, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm 65 years old. I'm divorced. I have two daughters, one son-in-law, and two granddaughters who keep me busy. And I just enjoy helping people. I think that's been my whole life through my career as a social worker. My goal has always been to help people. And I think that being a psychic medium, that's my biggest goal, is to bring people some peace and some calmness in their life.
All right. That's really nice. So, how'd you get started in all this?
Oh, someone asked me that today. And thinking back as a child, I had deja vu, which I think a lot of people do have. And I do think a lot of people have abilities. They just don't tap into them, or they're afraid of them. And I think a lot of people experience things like deja vu. I remember distinctly as a child being someplace. It was a wooded area, and I remember the fence, and there was a sign on the fence, and I had been there before. I know I had
Right.
been there before, and my father was with me, and he said, "There's no way you could have been here before." But I remember distinctly as a young child seeing their place, knowing I had been there before. So that was probably a first experience for me. And then as I got older, went into my career as a social worker, I definitely knew I was very empathic and very intuitive. And that showed in my work with people. Um, they grow very close to me and I to them, and trying to help them better themselves and get a better life for themselves and their children. So I've always been in a helping profession. And then when my job ended due to a contract ending thing, I remember sitting one night on my computer and I was looking through pictures, and I don't even know what site I was on. It was probably a Facebook site, and looking through pictures of people who had passed away. And I'm like, I can feel what they're thinking. I can feel how they're feeling. One of my first ones was a young man from Ireland who had passed away in a tragic motorcycle accident, and he died instantly.
Oh,
And I knew that. I felt like I was with him. I knew the minute he hit the pavement, he was gone. So
wow.
he didn't suffer.
Wow.
So important to family. I ended up reading. I read for his sister. I read for his best friend who was a girl. His brother, who was in prison, found a way to link into me so that he could talk to me in prison about his brother's death. That's how much he wanted to connect with his brother, that he found a way in prison in Ireland. I don't know what the prisons are like in Ireland. I don't imagine they're, as nice as our prisons are. But he found a way to link into me, and he was contemplating suicide.
And you're in the United States?
And I'm in Little Herkimer, New York, upstate
New
New
York,
York.
okay. So
Yes.
wow. So he was contemplating suicide.
He was contemplating suicide, and I knew that. And hopefully, I stopped him. He had a child to think about. He was going to get out of prison. He wasn't going to be there for life. He was going to get out. He had a future in front of him. He had a girlfriend. He had a child. He had a career. He could go back to school. There's so many things that he could do. So I really connected with that family, and it was sad. His best friend, who was a girl, I knew that they'd had a discussion one time about passing young. What they would do if they had passed young, and I felt that, and that really touched her. That made her knew that he was connecting with me, because how would I know about that conversation?
So
So
growing
it went from there. So I think from not working and having the time to really delve into things, I just would really pick up on people, and I would ask questions. One man I found, he had an abusive childhood, and I picked up on that. And he was hard on his kids too, not abusive like he was abused, but he was hard on his kids, and his daughter had a hard time with that. But once I explained to her that he had been an abused child, it made more sense to her why he was kind of hard on them, because he wanted them to grow up, and he wanted them to have good lives. He just was a tough parent. He didn't have that love and affection in his growing up years.
right. And usually, because I have taken classes to be a social worker as well and taking psychology and others,
Yeah.
usually that trade has been passed down, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they know is what they experienced when they grew up.
Correct. Yes.
Now, when you were growing up with your abilities, how did that affect your life?
Well, it's interesting. It's a really good question. Um, I grew up as an only child, so in many ways I was very spoiled. My dad worked, my mom stayed at home. My mom was emotionally distant, to say the least. She wasn't warm and fuzzy. And dad was a really great guy. Dad and I were best friends, and I was very close to him, but he was a very highly functioning alcoholic. And eventually the alcohol did cause him to pass away when he was 74 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, that was really tough. He was in Florida with my stepmother, and I barely made it there in time. So I kept praying to my grandmother, please don't come and get him yet, because I'm not there and I need to be there. And my grandmother listened to me, and she and my uncle, who had passed away before my father, they were waiting for him. And I knew that they were there, but it was funny because my grandmother didn't like Florida. So I kind of laughed that that's why she didn't, mind not coming down so
Oh,
fast getting him, because she really didn't like Florida. But they waited for me, and I was able to be there and hold him in my arms when he took his last breath.
wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yep,
And
I had family there with me.
that's impressive. That really is, and it's very touching. And as growing up, during the childhood years until your later teens, you know, the difference between you and others, how
Uh,
did that make you feel?
I was I was always the type of social worker. I was in sorority. We had three sororities. We had the top sorority, the middle sorority, and the bottom sorority. And I did not make it into the top sorority, which is something my mother threw in my face, believe it or not. But I made the middle sorority, and I actually ended up holding a statewide position with them because it was a sorority that had young women and older women. It was an older women's sorority. And that was a big honor for me. And I made a lot of friends there. But I always had friends like in different layers or stratas of society. I made friends with everybody. I enjoy talking with everybody because I always felt like I learned things from people. So I think, again, I was just more intuitive than maybe other people were back at that time. I could just sense things and feel things, and other people cry and I would cry with them, and just being very sensitive.
You
That's
know,
more,
when you're saying sensitive and everything, one of the things that brings the question to my mind with your abilities, has that affect relationships growing up?
um yeah, I think so. I think so. Being a sensitive and tuning into people's feelings about you, I think definitely affects you. I'm so blessed that I have friends that I have had for 53 years.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
We have been best friends. I have
Huh.
two other ladies and myself. We have been best friends for yeah, eight, so it's 5, 8, 3. So yeah, more like 57 years.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, we've been best friends and we've been through thick and thin. Trust me. We
Now
have had
that's what we call true friends.
our ups and our downs. And one of my friends, of the two friends, one is more aware and in tune to my psychic abilities and is more accepting of it and my ability to talk to her about some of my readings, because some of them come back. When they come back that you've connected with someone's past loved one and you've really connected with them, that brings them so much joy. And when they give you feedback and explain that joy to you, it makes you feel so good inside because you're helping someone. You're connecting with someone. My
Right,
other girlfriend, not so much. Not
right.
so much. She's not so much into the site, even though she believes in afterlife. And there were things like when her mom passed, she smelled cigarette smoke in her house. Well, her dad was a big smoker. And I said, that was your dad. Your dad's telling you he's got your mom now. And she'll believe in things like that, but not so much in my abilities. So we had a big falling out recently. It was big, and we got through it. And
That's
I told her,
good.
if this of all the things we can get through, if this is, the least of it, come on. We've been through more trauma. They went through me through my divorce. They were there for me for that, for financial difficulties that I had. They were always the first ones there for me. Michelle, do you need money? I mean, they're
Those
very,
are true friends.
very blessed.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
when my grandmother passed away, I smelt her favorite perfume,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
was like, I told my wife at the time, I was like, "Do you smell that?" She's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I do. That's your grandmother's favorite perfume." I'm like, "She's here," you
Isn't that?
know? Yeah, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I've always been intrigued by psychics and mediums because not only their abilities, but the gifts they have and what they're able to do. And it's amazing. Now, with you,
It is
can you go out in public?
to say that.
Can you go
It
out in
is
public?
amazing.
It
It's
is.
when no, I'm not like Teresa Caputo. I do not go out in public and say, "Oh, by the way, your past loved one is coming through to you right now." I don't do that. I
No,
don't work like that.
no, I didn't mean it that way, but what I was going to is when you go out in public, are you bombarded with spirits trying to get your
Oh,
attention?
yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, I was working at a private lodge. I belong to the Elks Lodge in Herkimer. I'm an officer there. And that was my father and his friend's favorite hangout.
Oh,
So when I was
wow.
working there, I was a bartender and I would be there late at night. And I never once was afraid. Not once. I never felt a negative spirit. I always felt positive spirits, and I knew if anyone's there, I knew who they were. And they were my dad
Wow.
and all his friends. So I never once, other we have other um, younger girls, younger women who are bartenders who do get a little spooked at
Right.
night, but they haven't had the history like I have. I practically grew up there. My children grew up there. So, no, I'm very, very comfortable being in that environment.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
really is. Now, being a counselor, that really had to help you when helping other people.
Oh, definitely. Definitely being a social worker. I've been working with, I'll tell you, Chris, it amazes me. But in the past 2 weeks, I have done 5 readings on men who have passed away from fatal heart attacks who were on vacation.
Oh, wow.
Is that not amazing?
Yes.
5.
Yes.
5. I said, what is it? God is missing men on vacation in their 50s and 60s. I mean, he's got a void in heaven and he wants 5 men within the past 2 weeks. It just blew me away. And when I kept coming up with heart attack and heart attack and heart attack, and these women were with them, their partners were with them when they had their heart attacks, except for one that I just read yesterday. He had a heart attack alone and he ended up in a coma for 6 months before he passed away. So
Oh,
really, really tragic. But the other ones, I mean, one they were resting in their hotel room. He was laying down in bed. He had a fatal heart attack. With her there, she's trying to perform CPR on him. He was gone. He was
that's
just
so
gone.
sad.
And she is, I mean, these women are beyond devastated.
Oh, I can imagine.
They are so devastated. And some of them are women where the man did a lot in the family. You know what I'm saying? They really
Right.
kind of kept the wheels turning and things going, and the women did what they did. And when they're left alone, it's a big shock for them. They've got to deal with, houses and property and
Oh,
children,
absolutely.
animals, and, finances, all those things. And they're doing it on their own. And it's so hard on them. I don't know how to do this, but I've been wanting to do a support group for them because maybe if they could talk to each other, it would give them some comfort. and and I tell them, I just did a reading on another woman who lost her husband the same way you did. And she's going through this too. I want you to know you're not alone. You're not
Right.
alone in what you're going through, because I think that's really important for them to know that they're not alone.
Right. And what's sad is when you bring up that subject about uh, the finances side and having struggles. I've known people, whether it's men or women, that's never used a checkbook or
Right,
balanced a checkbook before or
right,
even kept up with finances. Now, I know today's a lot different because it's all electronic debit and it's a little bit easier. But
right.
some of them didn't know what bills to pay, when to pay them,
Uh-huh.
and they really had a big struggle with it. They really did. And
Sure.
that was a lot of stress on them. And not
Yes.
counting losing their loved one on top of it.
Right, right. And some of these women, I know some of them are well off. They're okay financially, and other ones are really struggling and wondering, I sell the house, I keep the house, I get an apartment, I move in with family. They're going through struggles, and I try to help them with that, depending on what their loved one is saying to me, what I'm getting, the images I'm getting or the feelings that I'm getting. I will give them advice as to what I think the loved one is imparting upon me.
Now, I always believed in psychics and mediums, okay, and so has my mother. And
Uh-huh.
now my dad is like it's hocus pocus, he don't believe in all this stuff, and I
Yep.
and I always told my dad you have to open up your mind and you have to accept things. I mean, if you believe in aliens and you believe in Bigfoot, then why don't you believe in people with abilities and special gifts?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of fakes and scammers out there, which we're going to talk
Oh,
about.
sure.
But, me speaking and interviewing a lot of people, especially like you, has really opened my mind totally up. And I see a totally different aspect or view of people with gifts and abilities. Some people that I know that I've interviewed and spoken with are not able to leave home because of
Wow.
the issues.
Yeah. Yep. I have a woman I met through one of the psychic groups on Facebook. I had met and we friended each other, and she's from Germany, and she doesn't leave home. She's agoraphobic. And I've
Yeah,
been to help her, and she's actually been able to get out to the mailbox,
well, that's impressive.
which was a big deal for her. And she has gone to the doctors. So trying to get her to go again, she needs more physical appointments and
Right.
getting her out. And that's been and I'm just been a big support for her and trying to encourage her to get out. But she feels her dad around her all the time.
That's
He never
nice.
leaves her. Yeah, he never leaves her. He's always there, and her grandmother too.
That's nice.
But I also saw her mother. I saw
Oh,
her mother.
really?
Yes. Yes, I saw her
That's
mother
really
too.
interesting. It
Yeah.
really is. With people like you that have the abilities and everything to help other people, how do you determine the reals from the fakes and scammers?
It's it's hard. I think you get a feeling. I think you'll get a feeling when you talk to them. If it's just in general terms, and sometimes I do use general terms because that's the only thing that's coming to me at the time. But if it's all in general terms that they love you, they miss you, blah blah blah. I'll say, um, they miss having coffee with you in the morning, and that'll be the difference. And they'll say, "Oh my God, we always had coffee together in the morning." That was a big thing for them. And or shopping or doing something special that I sense that, versus the people who are, number one, just in it for the money. And we can talk about the money thing too, because there's two points of view on psychics taking, cash payments or Venmo or PayPal or whatever,
Right.
and the other one's not doing it. And so I got off on the tangent of the payment thing, and not, and some psychics, feel that they deserve to get paid, but I think the ones that are scamming are, ask right away for money. That's their first line of business, is money. Usually I would get into a reading, and then I have had people offer to pay me quite a few times. And what I do is that, I don't accept payment. Uh, Even though I could use the money too, but I don't accept
Right.
payment. My
Right.
feeling, it's a God-given gift, so I'm giving back. It's my way of repaying to other people. So I tell them that if they can, to donate to a local animal rescue.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, and they've done it. I've had people do it before, which really pleases me. So that's giving back to their local community, because I feed the feral cats in our community. And so I spend a lot of money on them, but I got to get them fat for winter.
Right.
Get a lot of snow up here. It's very, very cold right now. I think it's around 25 degrees out right now here.
Ooh, that's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. We
That's
have
cold.
no snow yet. It's been raining, but yeah, it's getting colder, and it won't be long before we get the snow. And I feed those cats every single day. No,
Do you have a Kroger's up there?
pardon?
Do you have a Kroger's up there?
No.
Okay. And if you ever talk to somebody throughout the United States that has a Kroger's,
Uh-huh.
they can call their local shelter
Uh-huh.
and get a special number and call Kroger's, and every purchase they make, a percentage will be donated to that shelter to help them out.
Um,
Yes, and I'm set up to do that, and so is my family.
oh,
Yeah, it
I'll
really is.
I have to Google them
Yeah,
and
so
see if they might
that
be in Syracuse. They're not in Herkimer.
yeah, so that's very good, and that means a lot to me because I'm a big, huge animal lover. I really am.
Oh,
All of
I
our pets have been rescued.
I have seven.
So yeah, all of our pets have been rescued.
Yeah. Yeah, my two, except I do have a Chihuahua who is my baby.
Oh, I love my
Who
chihuahuas.
I did I did buy him. I have to be honest. I paid $300 for him. It was a young couple who had the mom and dad, hadn't gotten them fixed yet, and they had the puppies. And
Yeah.
they were so beautiful, but he ended up being 11 pounds.
Oh,
He
wow.
started out 1.7 pounds when I got him. He was the cutest little thing. He's 11 pounds. Ah,
Yeah, I have two. It's called Emmett and Tiny. They're
oh,
with my
cute.
daughter right now in Louisville because she went to college, and
Oh,
we're in the process of moving. So, but
oh,
when you talk about compensation, I've heard people that has been saying, "Oh, you have been cursed. You need to pay me $2,000 so I can remove the curse off you."
Yeah, those are ridiculous. You just can't. You
Yeah,
can't.
right.
When they come out with the cursing thing, that's just ridiculous. It's totally different if they come out. Even I don't believe demonologists charge. I don't think they come out and they charge to try to rid someone of a demon or a dark energy. So I don't think the first thing is going to be, you're cursed and you pay me and I'll get rid of your curse. But they do it all the time and people believe it.
And that's
People.
sad because I think they take advantage of a lot, and
Yeah.
people believe in it, and they actually pay for it,
Yes, they do. They do. I wish they
and
would.
that's really sad.
And see, I,
Now,
I offer my services for free because I can. But I know there are legitimate psychic mediums who offer their services for a charge, but it's usually a minimal charge.
that
I
is
say,
correct.
it's around $20, $25, which I don't think is a bad charge. You get out to, what is it, Lollybrook in New York. They has all the psychic mediums and they put out their shingles and they might charge more like in the $55 range or so. But
Or
if they,
higher.
yes, or higher, but if they connect with your loved one and you're happy with that, then it's worth the money. So,
Well, and
so
one of
I'm
the things,
people making a living because some people make a living this way.
well,
And
and that's my point.
and people have pointed out to me that since I do feed the feral cats and I do have so many animals of my own, that I could do my own site and accept donations that would go for food for the ferals because I feed them quite a bit. But
Right.
I
And that
haven't
does
done.
add up. Yeah. And, one of the things I try to tell people too is that some of the psychics and mediums that are not able to leave the house because they're not able to shut off or block or shield
Yeah,
themselves
right,
from all the spirits and people that has passed, the only they can't work a regular job, and that's why they charge $25 or $30 a reading.
sure,
Now, one of the things I always say is that, they already have a client base. They already know that they're real. They already
right,
know they've been tested and validated. So that's why people go to them and use them.
right,
So that's the difference between you going to online and saying, "I'm going to pay $30 to get a reading," and you don't know what you're doing or who you're talking to.
right, right.
So that makes a big
Absolutely.
difference.
I mean, there are times that we bomb. There are times that I have fallen on my katushkas and I have just, bombed the whole reading. But funny, the last one that I did for a woman on her past son, I did this whole reading and it was pretty detailed. And she's like, no, that's just not him. And I'm like, wow, because it was pretty detailed. This other woman had read it, came online and said, you hit my son perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Never know what spirit's going to come through to you. So she must have been reading this post when I was reading this post about this past young man, and I picked up on her son.
I can see that.
Yeah, it was really amazing. It was just everything about it was just her son, personality, manner of passing. It was her son, and it
Well,
wasn't her lady. So I
yeah.
and I think somebody else read for her and came up with things. So I think she did get a reading out of it. But I felt bad, but I was like, wow, that's amazing to hit 10 out of 10 points.
And I always tell people that a psychic or medium is not going to be always going to have answers for you.
Right.
That spirit may not come forward. Your loved one may not be there at that time.
Yep.
So you have to understand that. And
Yep.
you don't go into a reading to have expectations to get what you want because you may not get that. And it
Right.
doesn't mean that they're fake. It just means that at that time they're not there. And there's nothing that the psychic or medium can do.
Right. And sometimes they'll think about it later and be like, "Oh my God, now I know what that means." And
Right.
it'll come to them that something that we said, because sometimes I just get a feeling. I mean, it'll be things like, "Did he like bowling?" All of a sudden bowling comes to me and be like, he loved bowling, he lived to bowl. And that'll just give you confirmation that you are connecting with the person. They're coming through to you and giving you snippets of their life. It's not like you're going to get their whole life story. And they
Right.
name every sibling or every child even. I mean, sometimes I'll feel a certain child, but I don't feel all of them. Maybe I'll feel a daughter, but he also had two sons. Well, I could feel a daughter. That's all I can say, is that maybe, the daughter was maybe a little bit more spoiled or more of a princess or whatever. And he just wanted to let that daughter knew that he was coming through thinking of her. So think
Now,
that sometimes you don't hit on it. Sometimes a lot of groups don't like to do this, but sometimes I like to ask one question, just one question. So if you tell me yes, then I know I'm hitting. Then I can go on with my reading. But if you tell me no, then maybe I'm not. And let somebody else do a reading, because maybe they will hit on you.
I mean,
And
that makes sense. That's one of the things that I've learned is that be wary or beware of a person that asks a lot of questions before the reading.
right.
Because they're really good with micro expressions on your face.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
usually you're there for love
yeah.
or financial or a passing of a loved one.
Well, I just did a reading yesterday on a woman who did not post a picture. I read by pictures. I go by, if they send me a picture of their loved one or of themselves, that's how I do my readings. I study the picture and I pick up the energy from the picture. And it is hard though when they send pictures of more than one person in the picture, because then a lot of times you're picking up their energy too, and you might end up,
Oh,
instead of reading the loved one, you might end up reading them. So it's nice just to have a picture of one person, but I have read multiple pictures. Or people have sent me single pictures, but of multiple people in their family, because they've lost a lot of people. So it does get exhausting. I do have to say that you do get tired. You
and
get to
that's another
get
thing
tired
I've learned.
doing
You do
multiple.
get tired and exhausted.
Yeah. But I did a Rihanna when she didn't post a picture. She just reached out and said that it was someone had passed. And I said, was it a husband? And she said, no. I'm like, oh, okay. So I kind of moved on and said, well, it's not a husband. Well, she called him her life partner. They weren't married. But to
Right,
me, he came through as a husband. you
right.
know so in my mind, he came through as a spouse, not just a life partner, which is what they were calling each other. So I end up doing a full reading for her, because I
Uh-huh.
felt only he was calling to me, and he wanted to be heard. And so I did the full full reading for her, for just even her saying no when I would normally just move along and let someone pick up. Maybe it was a mother that she was missing. I can't always tell. A lot of times I can see spirits around people when I study their pictures. I can see maybe grandma in the corner and what she looks like, and I can describe her so they know if that's grandma. So things
Right.
come to me too.
I mean, that actually makes sense. And, that's one thing that I've learned with talking with people and trying to share the knowledge with other people, that you actually have to have an open mind first off. And like I
Yeah,
said earlier, don't have the expectations of getting what you want when you first sit down,
right.
because you don't know who's going to come through or who's not going to come through.
It's gonna come through. Right. It may not be the person that you want, but all of a
Right,
sudden they'll realize, oh my God, that was Uncle Joe. You know, they'll come up with somebody and say, well, but that may be the person that wanted to come through or just had more of a strength to be able to come through.
right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand you all, or people like you, because what they see on TV, and then they find out that they're fakes or
Yeah.
phonies.
Yeah.
And
Some are so
well,
amazing that it just, how they come up with some of the things they come up with. And it's hard to know who are fakes or not, but boy, they make a lot of money, doing
yeah,
what they do. And they have shows and people, they will sell out their shows and just for a chance to chat with a loved one, God bless them. If they're on target and it brings somebody peace, and I say God bless them.
right. I could understand that. I really do. But I always tell people, don't. And I keep repeating myself with it. Don't ever, ever set expectations, because you may set yourself up for heartaches or failures, and you don't want that. And just like when people go ghost hunting, you may go
Mhm.
into a house or a building or a place and have no activity, you
Right.
know, and that's the way it is.
And
And
then
I
when
mean, it
people
happens.
can be having tons of activity, you don't know. You don't know who they're going to connect with and who's going to, whose energy is going to chase them away, whose energy is going to attract them. I think that
Right.
they're, attracted to different energies of people. I
You're
think
right.
people, they'll say that they feel spirits around them and there's just that personality, they'll be attracted to them.
Hmm. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not sick. Uh, First off, I want to give a shout out to all the admins and monitors, moderators, for letting me advertise in the groups and let me post. And Michelle, I sent you a link
Yeah.
to one of my new Facebook groups. If I can hit it back up,
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that right, but it's psychics and mediums around the world.
Oh, okay.
I just started that the other night, and hopefully you join in. I sent you the link to it,
Hey, sure.
and you can do anything you want in there. You can post, you can write, you can share your experience. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It's made for people like you that has a voice and something that you can share with people. And I think that's very, very important to do. And it really is. And I think there are more good of you than bad, in my opinion.
Yes.
I know that you have bad apples, and the bad apples unfortunately make people like you look bad,
Right.
and that's sad. It really is.
Hmm.
Now, have you ever tried to work with agencies or law enforcement people?
Um, Recently there was a missing woman in New York State, and I did try to reach out to law enforcement to ask them if they worked with psychics, and they never got back to me.
Yeah, I noticed that law enforcement people are very, very wary with working with psychics.
Yeah.
Most of the time that I'm aware of, because I was in law enforcement, we never actually had any psychics or anything.
Yeah.
But the bigger departments in bigger cities do, and they called them advisors or
Right.
guests, and they would not use that because they couldn't put them on the stand or anything and have them testify because they'd be like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and I know a few psychics that actually do work with agencies
Oh,
that
good
do
for them.
find missing persons and bodies and stuff like that, and help them solve cold cases.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Cold
and
cases.
I do know people like you that don't charge, and and I tell people, from what I understand, if you get a reading and you try to tape it and they say no, you're not allowed to record it, and if they say because it interferes with my balance or my harmony, then take out a pen and paper and take notes, and they say no, you're not allowed to do that, then I would probably get up and walk away
Yeah.
because something's not right.
Right.
Something's
Right.
not right.
If they want to take notes. I mean, since my readings are all through Facebook or private messenger, um, we have a history of what's written. So we know we can go back and see, what was said and what was written, so they know
Right.
we're on target or not. And people
Right.
say, a lot of people do stay in touch with me. I've had some families. I did one very touching reading. The woman had posted a picture of a little girl. I'll do readings on children. Not everyone does, because children are very, very hard, especially babies. She posted a beautiful picture of this beautiful little girl, and she called her my angel. So, of course, I assumed she had passed away. Well, I did this full reading on her, from her stomach aches to angels being around her.
Lost your voice. Did you get
My
muted?
phone was.
There you go. I got you back.
So I did this whole reading on her favorite colors, her favorite toys. I knew everything about her. Well, come to find out, she hadn't passed away. Her mother just called her my angel. But the way the post read, it sounded like she was passed, but she had been very sick. And I picked up
Oh,
on ailments. So
I got you.
she ended up private messaging me, and we had a long conversation because I felt dreadful that I thought that the little girl had passed away. But I did see angels around her, and I do feel that that was, it's a protective factor for her, having these angels around her, trying to keep her well. But I haven't heard from the mother in a very long time because she was due to have some scans. And I
Uh-huh.
really wish that they would reach out to me and let me know how she was doing, because I do care about them when I read them.
That's very thoughtful and sensitive of you. A lot of people do not worry or think about anything once the reading's done, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. No, no. I feel definitely connected to these people, and a lot of them do stay in touch with me. I have quite a few that I'm in touch with, and again, if they have someone to talk to in their grief, and it helps keep them well to know that they can, that they've got me to talk to, anytime, day or night, I've talked to people to try to help them because unfortunately, um, a lot of people do think about ending their own lives when they've lost someone that they've loved so deeply.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I do unfortunately get a lot of suicides in my readings. A lot of suicides, a lot of drug overdoses. Still some COVID coming through. There's been quite a few COVID passings. I'm surprised I don't get more 9/11 passings, but yeah, unfortunately there's a lot of suicides out there. So I really try to discourage them from that line of thinking, and it's not what their loved one wants for them. They want them to pass of natural causes at a very
Right.
elderly age,
Right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I admire you for doing that. And one of the things that I suggest, and you're probably going to say no, is I suggest for you to set up a GoFundMe page.
Oh,
So that way, if they want to donate, let them donate.
yeah, that's an idea.
It's not like you're saying, "Hey, here's my GoFundMe page. Put $25 or $30 in it."
Yeah.
Let them decide if they want to put any money in it or not, and it's just an option
Right.
because people like that are taking time and energy with your gift should be rewarded because of what you do, but also, financial reasons. In this world today, in our economy, it's so rough to survive.
Yeah, I know. I
It is.
know. If I will, I'll think about it.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen that's listening out there from coast to coast and around the world, I'm not suggesting her to charge or ask for money for her services. I'm just saying, you know, uh, have her think about a GoFundMe page. And when she does her readings or anything, and if you want to donate any amount of money, whether it's $5, $2, or 10, it's up to you to help her out, and that's all. That's all I have to say.
Mm,
So,
thank you.
you know, but
Thank.
also on that, oh, you're welcome. But also on that Facebook group I sent you, you can also advertise.
Okay.
You can also post anything you want.
All right.
You can post past stories, and you can change the names if you need to.
Yeah.
You can also post anonymously. You can just tap a button and they won't know who you are, your
Oh, okay.
name, or nothing. So it'll just show your post and nothing else.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way most of my groups are set up. So
Okay.
nobody will feel embarrassed or nobody will feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get all these instant messages, or I'm going to be attacked by all these people.
Yeah.
So number one, I do not allow any drama in any of my groups.
Mm,
Period.
good.
No emojis. Uh,
Uh-huh.
no negative feedback. If you
Mhm.
don't agree, scroll on.
Oh, good.
If you do have any drama or conflict, you're automatically out. You're banned.
Mhm.
And not only are you banned from my groups, you're banned from other groups as well.
Oh, okay.
So we take that very seriously.
Right.
And a lot of people say, Grizzly, you have a lot of admin on your teams. Well, because we monitor our groups on a regular basis, and some of us are in different time zones and across the world.
Right.
So that way we can actually monitor what's going on and so forth.
Right.
Uh, I admire people like you. I always have. Uh, what other stories do you have?
Oh, gee whiz. I don't know. Trying to think. Like I said, I've had, the poor men with the heart attacks. It just breaks my heart. And again, doing the hard ones are again the children. Those are the hard ones with the babies, especially ones that are like firstborn or stillborn or born with issues and only live for a few hours. Those are the hard ones to do. But we had talked a little bit yesterday about doing some work in demonology.
Right.
And not a demonologist. By no stretch of the imagination am I a demonologist. I do some work in demonology. I have an interest in it. And I try to help people in cleansing their houses. I usually recommend saging a house. If it's bad, having it blessed, by a religious person, that's always good, or blessing it yourself by reading the Bible and going through. You can get holy water and spreading holy water, but I believe a lot in saging and trying to keep the negative spirits out. But the negative spirits thrive on negativity and they thrive on fear. So if you're fearful and you always worry and you're always fretting over things, they're going to be more attached to that than people who are finding the good in things and finding the more positive things in life. And I think that's important is just the atmosphere we present to ourselves and to others and in our home is important as to what we attract in. And getting rid of the negative spirits does not mean getting rid of the positive spirits. The positive spirits will still be with you. So people are afraid, well, if I try to invoke anything to get rid of negative spirits, is Great Aunt Tilly going to be mad at me? It's like, no, she'll still
Right.
be out.
Right.
Great Aunt
Right.
Tilly will still be there. If she's a positive spirit, she'll still be with you. It's not going to chase them away. But I try to help people in that respect.
Well, talking about demonologists and dark entities, do they actually are able to harm people and cause medical problems?
I think living in a home they can. I think that they can cause sleep disruptions. If they're in someone's home, they could cause some medical issues. They cause emotional disruptions. People will say he was the nicest person and all of a sudden he just turned, and he's been living in this house and they feel that there's spirits there. It could very well be. I don't think as much remotely, even though they try. I don't think they can remotely, like I protect myself and I ground myself. So I feel like even though they know I'm there, they can see me, they can't get to me because I won't allow them to.
That makes
You
sense.
I don't allow them access to my world.
Well,
And
we see on TV with ghost hunters and stuff
mhm,
that people that lived in the house has become, very seriously ill after they moved in. Sometimes, unfortunately, they lost family members with or I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but let's use the word passed on,
Yeah.
and uh, and the doctors couldn't find a reason, but it was something out of the ordinary that the age they were, it shouldn't have happened.
Couldn't happen, right?
Right. So that was one of my questions because, a lot of people tell me, and I never really asked a psychic this or that question is like, the, I don't want to say the dead, but the spirits and ghosts cannot hurt you. And I think otherwise. I think they have the capability to do so.
I I think there's a difference between the negative spirits and the positive spirits. And I hate to say demons, but I do. A lot of my groups don't allow this talk. I'm not allowed to talk about demons or demonology in my groups, but I do feel that if there's angels, there's demons. Where there's
Of
good,
course.
where there's positive, there's negative. So I try to, when I talk in different groups, like Spirit Photography is a group, and I try to say positive or negative spirits instead of saying, well, I think you got a demon in your house. But I think they can, it can affect you. But also, I think your family members who have passed on and also the archangels and your guardian angel do come to protect you against demons and negative spirits. I do think there are, there's a lot of protective factors with people that they may not realize, but that their family may very well be with them, protecting them from the bad entities. Is that
Okay. Now, I want to let you know this. My group is uncensored. Okay. The only thing I request is not pointing to you or referring to you is no foul language.
uh-huh.
Now, now I'm not saying you, but just
Right.
anybody that's listening on the air. I'm very, very particular about that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the group's wide open.
Oh,
And I agree with you on that, the statement that you made. But what keeps coming back to my mind in flashes of images is the babies and the stillborns. I mean,
good.
what do you pick up on those?
Oh, it's no, Lukey. It's I'm yelling at my dog who's barking already. The other ones are being good, but
Okay.
one's always got to act up, But tell I can tell, feel if it's a congenital thing. Stop! Don't do that! Don't do that!
My
Stop!
chihuahuas do the same thing when I'm on the air. It's funny.
Yep, the Chihuahua, and just feeling like things they had for them, colors that they had picked out for them. If they had, bunny rabbits or little blue bear or something like that with them, or if they were able to hold them before they passed or they passed before they took a breath, things like that, or how old they were. Just little things trying to comfort them that they're angels in heaven now, because I do believe that babies turn into angels in heaven, and they're little cherubs up there, and um, a lot of times I can sense who's with them. If it's a grandma who's passed, or a grandpa who's passed, or a favorite aunt or uncle, or somebody else who has passed away who's with them and taking care of them in heaven, a lot of times I can sense that. So that will give them some comfort that they're not alone, or what they're doing, like with the little, children, just, their favorite colors and toys and TV shows and what they're showing me, and what they like to play with, and if they had baby brothers and sisters or older ones, and how much they love their mom and dad, and it comes down to things like that. They
That's really interesting,
bring
and it's fascinating.
well,
You
if it
know,
comfort, that's the main thing.
it really is, and I hate to ask this question, but with the ones that are born that does not make it, are you able to communicate with that child?
Yes. Yes, I'm communicating with them. And I'm sensing what they sensed and what they felt. And um, if it was just their little heart just stopped, or the lungs just weren't going to work or something of that nature. A lot of times I can feel that. I can feel what people are going through as they're passing away, what's
Wow.
going on with them. So, it's just very difficult and very draining to read babies, especially because you know that they're grieving so much for them.
Right.
Yeah, love
Doing
with babies.
doing these readings, whether it's on young children, babies, adults, you know, does it ever affect you emotionally?
Um, oh yeah, they can definitely get to me. And but I try to keep my emotional side out of it and just concentrate on what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, what I'm seeing, what visions I'm having. I try to keep my own grief out of it, but I feel their grief. So I know how much they're grieving for their loved one. I can
That's
feel
that's something.
it's
That's
I can't go and tell them that I know what you're going through because I have not, thank God, lost a child or lost a
right.
husband that. So I have lost my parents, but I can't tell them I've been in their shoes and lost a husband or a child or something like that. But I feel their grief. And it gets very wearing on me to absorb that. So I have to kind of block some of that and not absorb all of their emotions. But I can feel a lot of times what they're feeling then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be wearing on you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of psychics and mediums, that I've talked to has expressed that, sometimes they have to lay down and take a nap because
Mhm.
they're so overwhelmed and tired.
Right. Because you put a lot of your energy into that. It's not just like you can, I just look at a picture and be like, "Oh, that's a pretty girl." And sometimes it'll just be it that it will pick me up and you know, or their name, it would be a special name. Like I did a reading for a Louise. Well, my grandmother's name was Louise, and my granddaughter's middle name is Louise. So of course I had to read for Louise. So it's just their names or their pictures that just strike with you that you feel like, okay, maybe this is a person who wants to communicate with me, and sometimes they don't. There are sometimes pictures and you can tell they're really not that interested in communicating with you. So they do. They have every right to their privacy if they don't want to communicate. But a lot of them do like to talk, and they do want people to know that they're okay and that they're at peace and that they're healthy again and that they're dancing and that they're playing cards or they're having cocktails or they're sitting by the ocean. They want people to know that they're okay. So a lot of them do like to talk.
That's awesome. And when you communicate with these people or they communicate with you, And is it like flashes or is it like a TV screen where you watch like a movie?
Um, Sometimes a little of both, I would have to say. Sometimes it's like a flash. I'll just get a thought. It's like when names pop in my mind or initials, it'll just pop up and I'll just come out with it and just say I came up with the name uh Jerry was the last one and his name was Jim. But Jerry popped in my head and I said or a J name and his name was Jim. So I thought that was pretty close. I was accepting that of a J name that his name was Jim that I connected with. So those things will just pop in my head. And sometimes my first thought is my correct thought. I'll have a first thought and then I'll think about it and I'll correct myself. And my first thought was right. And I should just stick with that. So that's something that I
Right,
am learning. I should stick with that
right.
first. I thought that they were going on a vacation and she said yes. And I thought water. And she did acknowledge cruise. And the first thing that popped in my mind was Caribbean. And then I thought, no, I think they're going someplace exotic. I think they're going someplace like Greece. And she's like, no, Caribbean. And I'm like, all right, should have stuck with Caribbean. I would have been right on target.
See, ladies and gentlemen, everybody makes errors and mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. It just amazes me how you can do things and the gifts that you're blessed with,
Well,
from God above.
but don't you think that people still, it's like when you think about somebody and all of a sudden they call you?
Yes.
I mean, don't we have that happen? Or,
Yes.
you think about something and it comes up on TV, or somebody, wants to go someplace and you were thinking of going there. I mean, different things like that. I think everyone has some kind of an ability. It's just whether they're open to it or not.
Well, I'll tell you what happened to me last week. I was interviewing a gentleman, and if you watch the video, it was hard for me to maintain a straight face and no emotion. And for 20 minutes, I knew 7 seconds ahead of everything he was going to say, how he
Oh,
was going to say it, the tone, the emotion, how he was going to say it with his body.
yeah.
And it was freaking me out. And I'm trying to remain in front of the camera like nothing's going on. And after
Uh-huh.
20 minutes, it stopped. And
Huh.
and he just went on. And I didn't know what was going on. And I'm like, did we have this conversation before? But
Wow.
it's just like I heard it first, then it
Uh-huh.
was like replaying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that scared me because I never had that experience before.
I do it all the time. I know what people are going to say before they say it. When they think of names, when someone's thinking of a name, I come up with it. I just do
Wow.
it. It's just something that comes to me. It's just funny after a while because when they're umming, I'm coming up with, oh, you're talking about Joe's Grill. All right, it just comes to me. Yep, yep, I do that all the time.
Yeah, another thing, where I live now, my daughter's not here, and it hasn't happened in probably about a month. But my commode would flush 3 times in a row,
Oh,
knocking the Trinity. Now,
oh,
it
okay.
doesn't have a handle to let me get in front of the camera. It doesn't have a handle to push down. It's got a button,
Okay.
and it's really hard to press.
Right, to push that
And
button.
I would hear it over and over 3 times in a row. And an hour
Wow.
or two later, I would hear it again, and I wouldn't get up, and I would just ignore it. And I told my mom about it because, her and I believe in all this stuff.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "You need to call the maintenance man. Something's wrong with your commode." I'm like, "Mom, it's brand new." I mean, maintenance man, I need you to come over. My commode flushes 3 times in a row, couple of hours a night, and they come over and look at it, and nothing's wrong. I don't want to look like a fool.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, it's funny because that happens at the private club, that I belong to. They put in a new men's bathroom, and when I'm alone in there, doesn't that darn thing flush? The urinal flushes. I'm like, okay, who's in there? Come out, whoever you are.
Yeah, right. Now, one
Oh,
night my daughter was home, and we have a doggy gate right there between the dining room and the hallway. It's a doggy gate. Let me see if I
uh-huh.
can front the camera again. I always do the opposite. It's a push button where you have to slide it, lift up, and open the gate. And it
Hmm.
was probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I hear this bam, and it literally made me move on the couch. And my daughter opened up her door and she said, "Dad, are you okay? Did you fall again?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." I knew what it was by the sound.
Hmm.
And I'm surprised she didn't see it because she would have been freaked out. And so I waited about 10 or 15 minutes and I got up and looked. And the type of doggy gate we have, if you know some of them, you have these bolts that you have to screw to put pressure on the wall
Yes, I
to
have
keep
them.
them in place.
Baby gated everywhere.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It took the paint off the walls and it was tilted like
Oh, wow.
somebody kicked it. So now my grandfather is a prankster.
Oh, okay.
He was alive. So that's what I'm chalking it up to.
Okay.
Because right before I retired on the police, it was Justin and Caleb and myself, and they were riding partners, and I was riding by myself. And Justin was standing outside the car, and we were talking, and he was like, "Ah!" and just took off running. And I'm thinking, man, are we getting ready to be shot? I mean, what's going on? So I'm freaking out, looking around in my surroundings to make sure we're okay. And he ran off. And I get out of the car and I'm like, what's going on? He
Hmm.
goes, he says, "Sir," he says, "I was talking to you and a face in the passenger window of your car just showed up." And he was describing me what the face looked like. And I didn't give it much thought or anything. And I went home later that night and I kept replaying in my mind what he was saying.
Hmm.
And the next shift we had working together, I showed him a picture of my grandfather. He goes, "That's it. That was
Wow.
him."
Wow.
And my grandfather was a police officer as well. So I guess he was there protecting me
Wow.
or just watching over me. So
Yep.
everybody on my mom's
Yep.
side,
Definitely.
back. So yeah, that was very interesting. And and my dad does believe in that part. So I did talk to my dad about it, and he said he was probably making sure you were okay. And
Hmm.
you know, he was probably making sure that you didn't go anywhere because something was probably going to happen. And another psychic told me you misplace your keys a lot, and I'm like, how do you know that? a lot of people do. I'm thinking it's a random guess.
Hmm.
Says, let me ask you this part. How many times have you misplaced your keys and it took you a few minutes to find them? Then you get on the road and there's a bad wreck and you told your daughter that could have been us. And I was
Mm,
like, ooh, that's been
yeah,
several times. And she said, that's your guardian angel watching out.
yeah, yeah,
Because I told my daughter that several times. That could have been us if we would have left right then and there instead of
right.
me looking for the keys. Because I put my
Mhm.
keys in a certain spot every time.
I do too. I do too.
I
I
really do.
I lost them once, and I think one of my spirit guides is a real jokester, and she hid them on me. And then, so what I did is I cried, and I said, and I told her it wasn't funny, and I was very, very upset, and I needed my keys, and then they reappeared, so I got my keys
Oh,
back.
wow.
That's it. But she helped me find something today. I lost something today, and I asked her to help. I said she's a good hunter of things, so she helped me find it today. So
That's
that was,
awesome.
yeah,
That's
yep,
awesome.
yep.
Now, during your experience in your lifetime, have you ever have people that come through to talk to the loved ones to tell them, "Hey, you need to go find this where I hid something and it's either money or an object?"
Yeah, no, no. My one of my best friends, they lost her husband lost his Elks ring, and they looked everywhere for it, and then he passed away, and they never ever found it. And no, I couldn't help them find that Elks ring. We just thought so many times we'd find it in different pockets or different cubbies or something, and never found it. So no,
Wow.
I'm good with that. Never
Well,
find
I
it.
didn't know because, once again, you see on TV and TV is more of a amusing. What term am I looking for? TV. What does TV do to you?
Oh, just I don't know. Not stimulate you, but
Entertains you.
yeah,
Entertains you. Yeah.
entertain.
Yeah. Entertains you. And usually, you see things that the psychics are being told, you know, your husband's coming back and telling you to go look in this location in the basement underneath this and move this, and you'll find X amount or something like that. So, I never know because I never asked that question before. I
Yeah.
never have.
Oh, I don't. It's not. I mean, I'm sure there are psychics that can do that, but that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
Depends.
I guess not.
And they do tell them, but I mean, I have had some come through and tell me that there were insurance policies. I have had that happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did tell me there were insurance policies, and they were. They found them. So
Well, that's really nice. That's
yes,
really nice.
they weren't lost. So
Now, when I got hurt on the job, and they thought I broke my back, and
oh
I
dear.
never forget when the doctor came in. It was a different doctor, and he was like, "Grizzly, we need to talk." And I was like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm a urinologist, and we need to talk." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "We found a tumor on your kidney." I'm like, "Right side?" He was like, "Yes." And I said, "How big is it?" He says, "I forgot how many millimeters." He
Hmm.
says, "It may have spread to your organs." He says, "We're not for sure." He says, "We want to go in and do a biopsy." And I'm like, if you're going to go in and do what you got to do.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not go in and do something twice. So, and he said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah." So he warned me of the possibilities of the complications and everything with the machine and using his hands. And so he gave me a couple weeks, and I got my affairs in order and everything, and got my insurance papers out, and basically had my banks back, for the worst case scenario.
Mhm.
And he told me, he says, you got about 6 months to live.
Oh
You
my God.
And, depends on how much it's spread. So he goes in and everything, and he removes part of my kidney. It didn't spread to any organs or anything.
Good.
So it was small cell carcinoma. But the only sad part of it is it does have a chance to come back into the lungs. So every 90 days, I get chest x rays of the lungs, and every 9 months, I get an MRI done. So we can
Uh,
stay ahead of it just in
yeah.
case it does.
Good.
So, and that has really awakened me,
Mm-hmm.
and that God, I think, has given me a second chance on life.
Uh-huh.
If I didn't get hurt, they wouldn't have found the cancer.
Right. Right. Wow.
So I look at things totally different now. And even my daughter tells me, Dad, you have changed. And I'm like, I think the cancer changed me. I'm cancer free. And, knowing the chance of losing your life alters your future. And it did to me.
Yes.
So, so that's just my story. I just want to throw it out there. So
Wow. It's,
it is. So what else do you have?
oh, I think that's pretty much about it. My daughter's sick. So
Oh, really?
yes, I think she has the flu. So she just texted me, so I have to read that and see what's going on for. Yeah, 9:30 at night. I'm in Walmart getting cold medicine for her.
Oh,
Yeah.
bless your heart.
Yeah.
So how does people get a hold of you? So how does people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. That's it.
Okay, and what's the Facebook called?
Well, I'm on different sites. Psychic and Medium Cafe. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Okay, Psychic and Medium Cafe. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh,
You're going to be on psychics and mediums around the world.
yes,
That
I
have
will be
the
on
link.
there. You can get hold of me through that, so I'll definitely be on there.
Yeah.
And
And
we can.
let me tell you something. It's really been a blessing to have you on the show.
Oh well,
Uh,
thank
I
you.
I really thank you. It's been an honor. It really has. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to be on Grizzly Show, all you have to do is email me at Grizzly the Paranormal at gmail.com. Once again, that's Grizzly the Paranormal at gmail.com. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the day and night where we must depart from coast to coast and around the world. We thank our guests, and I will always have an open invitation for you to come back.
Thank you. I'd love
I
to.
sure will.
Okay.
And you all have a good day, and everybody have a good